If you watched Acolyte and hated it, you're racist. If you watched Supergirl and hated it, you're sexist. All these are statements Hollywood and Hollywood-affiliated companies make when their movies are falling apart. They're afraid to admit it, but Hollywood is dying and YouTubers are taking their place. Disney's stock has spent months sliding under intense pressure. It's down roughly 10% in the last year and 80% in the last 5 years as institutional investors dump millions of shares. And this is happening while the stock markets hit all-time highs. The major studios have abandoned the art of cinema and turned it into a rigid, soul-crushing corporate slop. The reason this corporate formula is failing is simple. Art needs a soul, and they've completely lost it. That is exactly why 3 independent movies, Obsession, Backrooms, and Iron Lung, all created and designed by YouTubers, have absolutely crushed box office records and everyone's expectations this year. But what's even crazier is how the story of Obsession ironically parallels a storyline of why Hollywood is dying. For those who haven't seen it, Obsession follows a guy named Bear. Bear is deeply in love with a girl named Nikki, but he doesn't have the courage or the genuine connection to win her over naturally. So, he takes a very sneaky and dangerous shortcut. The One Wish Willow, a magical item that grants him one wish. Nikki becomes obsessively in love with him. On paper, Bear gets exactly what he wants.
I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the fucking world.
Nikki is completely glued to him, but very quickly, the dream turns into a literal nightmare. Bear looks into Nikki's eyes and realizes the love isn't real. Her free will has been completely erased. She is a hollow, terrified shell mimicking affection because a spell is forcing her to, something known as compelled emotion. While this wasn't the director's intention, it's actually a mirror of modern Hollywood movies. Hollywood is Bear, and we the audience are Nikki. That is the very reason why the films of modern Hollywood are lifeless and just some corporate trash, because the people making creative decisions aren't the ones driven by a passion for storytelling, and those studios simply do not have the will to create a film that would earn their audience's love through something other than cheap scripts and cringy cliche storytelling. Half of these scripts were literally written by some AI, with dialogue without any life in it, and characters speaking about their emotions aloud. Supergirl is the case study people keep pointing to. They are so separated from understanding what we, as an audience, really want.
Many fans have embraced Supergirl as a queer icon. What do you think is about Kara that inspires that kind of connection? I think because she doesn't live inside the binary of what we think a woman should be, that is what makes her so special and so exciting and so new. And yeah, I kind of thought that as well. I was like, she'd do what she'd want to do.
They use the wishing well of corporate algorithms. They use multi-million-dollar marketing budgets and weaponized nostalgia to force us to love their content. They strip away the creative free will of a director to make sure that a movie perfectly fits the corporate checklist. Directors are told to meet certain criteria, or their movie won't be approved by the higher-ups. The fact that Curry Barker didn't get picked up by Netflix or any other giant is what allowed him the creative freedom to make a movie that captured every viewer and made the audience feel something that they haven't felt in a long, long time. Just like Bear realized when he saw that Nikki was forced to love him. It was soulless. Similarly, when you strip away the creative free will of a director to make sure that a movie perfectly fits corporate agenda, you will almost always end up with soulless slop.
You know, I feel like it could have been done a lot better, and it deserved to have been done a lot better. I guess I did. I don't know why I didn't consider, hey, if you're using this as a template, they could fuck it up. They could fuck it up real bad. And what I was saying is I enjoyed it up until, wait a minute, what are you doing? Why did you do that? The whole point of this! Did you miss the whole fucking point?
Studios have forgotten what it actually means to win over our love and attention. The connection has unfortunately become completely hollow. Disney, Paramount Pictures, Warner Brothers, and basically every major studio out there are running around like headless chickens. Instead of looking in the mirror and admitting that their corporate checklist is killing the soul of cinema, they refuse to take any form of accountability for it. They can't blame themselves, so they turn on the very people who built their empires. And that is me and you. Hollywood studios just can't own up to their own mistakes. When modern Hollywood releases a movie that bombs at the box office, they immediately start to blame shift onto you in one way or another. Anything to get the heat off of them. First, they blame the audience for not progressing at their pace. Every film feels like another form of political statement that we're all tired of hearing. Films have to include something race-based or a must-tell strong female lead character for the movie to be greenlit. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not to the plot. The director producer just has to shoehorn it in there somehow. And when audiences naturally end up rejecting a bad story, the studios don't look at the script like they should. They end up looking at the fans and labeling them racist, sexist, or homophobic. Classic. They don't even wait for the movies to come out anymore. Just look at the PR disaster surrounding the 2026 release of Supergirl. Weeks before the $170 million movie hit theaters, the lead actress Millie Alcock was actively mocking her critics as Christian dads and stating,
"If you're pissing the right kind of people off, you're doing okay."
And just like that, in just a few words, Millie blocked out a core demographic of fans that won't watch the movie anymore. It's probably the biggest headline about the movie since it was announced. When Supergirl bombs, it's not because fans were toxic. It was because nobody wants to pay $20 a ticket to be lectured by an arrogant Hollywood elite.
Generally, movies try to please the target audience. Supergirl decided to piss them off and disgust them. At this pace, it won't even make $200 million when all is said and done. And as you would expect, the fallout from this has been cope and excuses.
If they can't blame the identity politics, they'll default to their second favorite lie. Nobody wants to go to the theaters anymore.
Liar!
This is pure delusion. The major studios spent the last 5 years aggressively pushing audiences to stay home and build up their streaming platforms. And now they have the audacity to complain when people don't show up for mediocre cinema. They expect us to pack theaters for what? Nostalgia? The third reboot of a franchise we stopped caring about a decade ago, or actors who hate on fans.
Hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy. You get your goddamn ugly ass.
If we're honest, people just don't care about half the movies coming out. But theaters aren't dead. We know this because in 2026 alone, Obsession, The Backrooms, and Project Hail Mary completely shattered all expectations in the best way possible. Ryan Gosling's Project Hail Mary is gunning past $680 million globally, proving that when you deliver an original, incredibly well-crafted story, people will be so happy to literally line up around the block. Obsession was close to breaking the rules of the business. By simple logic, a film earns most of its money during its opening weekend. Thereafter, the frenzy dies down, and the revenues fall by about 50 to 60% in week 2. However, Obsession saw a 39% rise in its tickets despite virtually no promotion. People will turn up to see something worthwhile at the movies.
Everything this film tries to do, I think it does extremely well. I was blown away by how much I was enjoying this film.
So, where is the buck being passed next? The budgets for movies are shooting up through the roof. You need $200 million for a Marvel film these days. When these bloated, CGI-heavy messes fail to turn a profit, executives blame the fans for having unrealistically high expectations. Disney gaslights itself here to justify their budgets. But if this year has taught us anything, expectations aren't too high because $750,000 was the entire budget of Obsession. Additionally, Curry Barker had 3 weeks, a lack of needed equipment, and a crew made up almost entirely of his friends from YouTube. Yet, at the time of filming, Obsession had pulled off something considered statistically impossible in modern cinema. An independent film grossing over $400 million worldwide. That's 500 times its production budget. In North America alone, this $750,000 indie thriller has literally outgrossed Disney's The Mandalorian and Grogu. We don't need a $200 million green screen explosion to be entertained. We just want originality. We want a story that makes us feel something. And finally, their last blame card. The most desperate page in the Hollywood blame playbook is blaming men. For years now, directors and producers have explicitly put the blame on men for the failure of their reboots and spin-offs. When The Marvels or Madam Web crashed and burned, the internet was flooded with articles blaming male audiences for not supporting female-led action films. But let's look at the actual box office data for 2026. The movies that are absolutely carrying the industry right now. They all have something in common that modern Hollywood studios absolutely hate to admit. Iron Lung was spearheaded by Markiplier. The Backrooms was created by Kane Parsons. Project Hail Mary starred Ryan Gosling. Obsession was written and directed by Curry Barker. Male creators with zero interest in any of Hollywood's political agendas. They aren't trying to preach. They aren't trying to subvert our expectations to teach us a moral lesson. They are just telling incredibly good original stories, as it should be. This terrifies major studios because these independent creators are proving that Hollywood's multi-million-dollar marketing machines and corporate diversity committees are completely useless.
Keep in mind one thing. It's all bullshit.
And when you can't take responsibility for your own actions, when you can't even see how it could be your own fault that things are going wrong, well, ignorance is bliss. But that power you once had will start slipping away. But the arrogance of modern Hollywood is only overshadowed by one thing: greed. Walt Disney famously once said, "You don't have to worry about money. It will take care of itself. Just do your best work, then try to trump it." This is the philosophy that can be seen in his early works. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs revolutionized the animated film industry by making it possible for it to compete with live-action movies. Disney actually had custom sound systems installed in movie theaters all across America due to the fact that the existing technology could not match up to his expectations. He approached stories not as products, but as living worlds. The philosophy was simple: if you astonish the audience, the money will follow. You could even argue that glimpses of his philosophy carried into the 2000s when they spent $220 million on the first Avengers movie. It wasn't about the money spent on the movie. It was putting 6 separate franchises into a single frame for the first time in human history. It was a cinematic event that justified its cost, and it paid off because the storytelling actually matched the budget. But that Disney magic seems to have died now. Instead of creating something fresh, the studio used acquisition as a substitute for originality. Between 2006 and 2012, Disney bought Pixar for $7 billion, Marvel for $4 billion, and Lucasfilm for another $4 billion. Acquiring new companies has become their new norm. And once you buy the entire market, you don't have to innovate anymore. Disney is just one massive piece to the puzzle, and you can't entirely blame them. Wall Street needs endless quarterly growth. This forced the studios to stop focusing on what they were making and start focusing strictly on how much they could squeeze out of what they were making. They're in a tough position. Disney stock has spent months sliding under intense pressure. It's down roughly 10% in the last year and 80% in the last 5 years as institutional investors dump millions of shares. And this is happening while the stock markets hit all-time highs. Look at Netflix. They became giants because they offered a massive on-demand library for a few bucks a month, while cable companies were price gouging their consumers. The risk paid off. Netflix captured over 300 million subscribers. That is nearly 4% of the entire human population. Now that they've secured their dominance, they've completely betrayed their original promise. Aggressive subscription costs, cracked down on password sharing between families, and forced ad-supported tiers onto a platform we paid to be ad-free. By early 2026, they raised prices again. A premium plan now costs nearly a crazy $27 a month. Not to mention, their content has actually gotten worse. For the last 5 years, major studios have burned billions of dollars rushing mediocre spin-offs into production just to artificially inflate subscriber numbers. Despite the massive spend, writers, actors, and visual effects artists are barely paid. It's just plain greed, and finally the system is starting to crack under itself. Something most visible with Warner Brothers. After taking on over $43 billion in debt, their stock lost over 60% of its value. This forced them into a corner where they basically put themselves up for auction. This sparked a massive corporate bidding war, and by early 2026, Paramount took the $110 billion win. This wasn't some act of kindness or a rescue mission to save Warner Brothers. This was a $110 billion gamble driven purely by absolute, unchecked greed. Paramount's victory is going to be a nightmare for the entire system. Tech billionaire David Ellison and his father, Larry Ellison, didn't drop the GDP of a small country to buy a studio because they care about the legacy of cinema. Fewer studios buying scripts means fewer movies are greenlit. Why take a financial risk on a brilliant original indie script when you can just churn out the 8th soulless spin-off of a franchise you just bought? Just look at what they now control. A single tech family now owns Paramount, Warner Brothers, HBO, CBS, CNN, DC Comics, Harry Potter, and The Lord of the Rings. It's an exciting step for Paramount, but that $110 billion cost is going to land directly on you, the consumer. But for the first time, we, the audience, are not taking their crap. we are fighting back. Theater attendance for a multi-million-dollar slop is at an all-time low. Why pay $20 a ticket to watch a hollow CGI-heavy reboot when we already know exactly how it ends? Audiences are also responding with a massive industry-wide spike in piracy, because no one in their right mind is going to pay $150 a month across 5 different streaming apps that keep aggressively removing the shows we actually want to watch. Which is exactly why audiences are turning their backs on the corporate lie and flocking to the exact people Hollywood ignored.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Pretty much every major studio is freaking out this month. Not because one independent YouTuber is beating them at their own game, but because in under 6 months, 3 independent YouTubers have dominated the cinemas with micro budgets while major title films are failing. Curry Barker went to LA to join one of the best film schools, but ended up leaving when his YouTube channel was gaining popularity in 2020. He had spent years struggling to make his mark on YouTube because he had to wage a constant moment-by-moment battle against the viewer's desire to swipe.
Right. We got 32 followers. It's hard. It's hard. I'm looking them up.
Creating sketch comedy on the internet doesn't give you the privilege of an audience who is politely waiting after paying for their tickets. It wasn't film school that told him how to reach an audience and tell a story. It was hundreds of YouTube videos thrown into an algorithm where he could see exactly what made a person tick. It taught him comedic timing. It taught him what makes a person tick. He essentially had to study psychology through his analytics dashboard, just like me for real. He spent years learning exactly how to build a premise, trap an audience's attention, and twist their expectations in real time.
YouTube taught me through the comments that people are really smart. I would do the chair or milk and cereal and kind of cross my fingers and hope people pick up on these small little things. And you bet they'll pick up on things you didn't even intend.
He used all of this information to make Obsession, and no modern film has made anyone feel the way Obsession did. It's not hard to understand why it set records, but the truth is, Obsession is only one of many indie movies that have come to dominate the market. For instance, Kane Parsons was only 14 years old when he began making YouTube videos. Being a teenager, he created a virtual world using Blender based on a popular creepypasta, The Backrooms. The videos went viral, and a major studio approached him. Instead of buying his IP and kicking the original creator out of the room, like in the case of Disney's acquisition of Star Wars, this studio did the exact opposite. They completely bypassed the traditional writers' rooms, put a 20-year-old YouTuber in the director's chair, and let him retain full creative control. They understood the need to buy into the actual creator, not just the idea. Needless to say, the indie film is killing it right now. Kane managed to carry his viral YouTube videos' uncomfortable feelings into the movie. It grabbed the psyche of the viewers, leaving audiences stuck thinking about this terrifying new world. The Backrooms turned into one of the most profitable projects in A24's modern history. It is worth noting that A24 itself is a powerful studio, but their involvement proves that the industry is capable of adapting and working alongside these independent creators rather than just ignoring them. It means surrendering control back to the artists. But that's the risk of art. 2 times is a coincidence, 3 is a pattern. Go back a few months and you have Markiplier executing the exact same blueprint with Iron Lung. He took the idea of an independent game completely set within the confines of a submarine and managed to make everyone who watched feel complete, suffocating isolation. The independent film he made, with a budget of only $4 million, was able to earn over $50 million. They left the theaters hating that movie because it suffocated them, but at the same time, they loved that movie because for the first time in many years, they were able to feel something. So what do these independent creators actually understand about storytelling that a Disney executive doesn't? Disney is still treating us like Nikki from Obsession. They are using the hollow mechanical shortcuts of Bear's One Wish Willow, desperately trying to force us to love their content. But the audience is not under a spell. They're able to walk away from the forced agendas and the staggering lack of originality. The era of the multi-billion-dollar studios dictating our culture is over. The future of cinema is bright, but major studios are still coping. They're pretending this isn't a structural collapse. But the viewers are noticing, the investors are bleeding, and Hollywood is finally feeling it.